Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cindy and I am a social worker working and living in Melbourne, Australia for almost 9 years. If you are not familiar with my background story, feel free to check out my other videos where I talk about my immigration journey, where I talk about how did I get my skilled migrant permanent residency in Australia back in October 2020. So today I thought to share with you guys how to find your first job as an international student in Australia. That was my biggest worry and my biggest struggle when I was an international student. So for reference, I studied Master of Social Work with Monash University, and I had a very clear goal that I wanted to get my permanent residency in Australia, and I would like to stay here and live here. So when I was studying my Master of Social Work, I started to prepare for my immigration process, to pass the English exams, to do the translation certificate. I've done all that. But the biggest hurdle for me at the time was after finished my second placement, I was really anxious and really worried I won't be able to find a job. First, because I was an international student, and second, English is not my first language. I was worried that would put me in a very disadvantaged place. However, I was able to land a job successfully before the graduation of my Master of Social Work degree. I received my offer on the graduation day of the graduation ceremony. So let's dive into it. I've written down a few points and some tips and advice to help you. So keep watching if you are interested in today's topic. So the first thing you will need to do as an international student is to understand your working rights. In most studies that you were doing, Australian government only allows international students to work 20 hours a week. That's 40 hours per fortnightly while you study. So during your semester, you're only allowed to work 40 hours per fortnightly. However, if you are, like I said, placement, or if you are on a break, or even when you are still on your student visa, but you already finished your study, for instance, that way you can work full time. For instance, when I graduated, my graduation ceremony was set on 12th of December 2019, and my student visa doesn't expire until March the following year. So I was actually on student visa when I was looking for my official jobs, and that's okay. Once I finished study, I received my degree. January, February, March, I can work full time. That is a policy. So you're aware, lots of students might be terrified of looking for jobs. Like, oh, if I can't work because of my student visa, then I may as well just wait. No. Please do not wait. Do not wait. Apply for jobs 2 months before your graduation ceremony. So on your graduation ceremony day, you receive your degree. I'll attach my degree here and maybe some of my graduation photos. I started to apply for jobs back in October 2019. I had a bit of break between the second placement and the start of the last semester. I spent that whole week in the library browsing all the jobs and applying for every jobs in Victoria State. I was willing to go to different cities. I was willing to go to regional, and I applied for any field really that is available on the website. And one of the tricks you need to do is save the job description. Sometimes it's called PD, position description, while you're applying for the jobs, because you can easily get lost when you apply for 20 or more than 20 jobs. You forgot, where is this one? What was the requirements of that particular job? So start a folder in your laptop, save the ads, but do not just save the link because the link might expire, okay? You have to save, copy and paste the whole description of the page, save the attached documents, normally it's a PD, position description, into different folder and title the folder into the titles of the job that you applied for. Okay, so that's tip number 2, start early. Tip number 1 is understand your working rights and your visa situation. I got sidetracked a little bit. So in Australia, if you are completing a bachelor degree or master degree, most likely you are eligible to apply for a visa called post-graduation working visa, which gives you about either 2 to 5 years time, depending on which area you are, regional, different state. In my case, it was a 2 years post-graduation working visa with full working rights and everything. So I applied for that visa 1 month before my student visa was about to run out. And you will get a bridging visa to link your student visa, and from the day your student visa expires to the day you get your working visa granted. So there was no issue as long as you stay inside of Australia. It does not matter if your student visa runs out because you already applied for working visa. So you have a bridging visa. That way you can transition to work smoothly without a problem. So do not sit on, I'm waiting for my student visa to expire. I'm waiting to get my working visa. The working visa process might take 3-4 months after your application. You can work. You have full working rights. So there you go. I feel like I put lots of emphasis on the working visa and that you can actually apply for jobs while you're on student visa as long as you finish your study days. So back to my story, I started applying jobs in October, 2 months before graduation day, and I was able to land a job. I got a phone interview when I was in library, and they were really nice about it. My first team leader, she was super nice, super friendly, and she understands I am a graduate, so she was very not harsh on the questions that she asked. And then I was invited to an in-person interview where I secured the job. I think I did really well on the interview, even though I was extremely nervous, and I see lots of people that's waiting in the waiting room that looks much more senior than me, and they look like, oh my God, they are English native speakers, and I am merely an international student. I don't have any work experience here. English is not even my first language, but fear not, I was the one who got the job. So do not let your background or whatever you think is the limitations that limit your choice, if that makes sense. So that's my point 2, start early. Point 1 was understand your visa's situation and your working rights. And point 3 is do some mock interviews with your friends, with your partner, with whoever you trust. And there are a few tips. Obviously, these days it's different. You have ChatGPT, you have all different resources online. Back in my day, that was pre-ChatGPT days. I wrote down some of the possible interview questions and gave them to my partner, to my friends. We did some back and forth mock interview, which really helped me boost my confidence. And I also applied a method called STAR, STAR. S means situation, T means task, A means action, R means result. So STAR is basically a great result to show how capable you are as a practitioner, as a worker to handle any situation. Basically, you need to write down a story. How do you prepare this? You need to write down a story. How do you engage with a client? How were you able to support a family or a client? How did you handle a difficult situation, a challenging situation? It can be either happened during your study, during your part-time job, during your casual job, or what's best is from your placement. And here's a little trick for you. It actually does not have to be the story that you did. A lot of the times when you're on placement, I know you're not given lots of one-on-one or first-hand experience with clients. It can be a story that you observed. It can be excellent work that did by your colleagues, by your team leaders, or something you learned from a case study. Adapt that to your story as long as you are able to demonstrate your practice, to demonstrate your understanding of the work, and to demonstrate your value and your ethics. That's fine. So remember that, keep that in mind. And the second part from the mock interview is you can also focus on the field that your placement was in, which I basically covered because you are more familiar with the work in that field and with the legislations might come up. So that way you have a more chance of securing this job. And point number 4 is make sure to follow up with your applications. When you publish a job, you might get dozens, if not hundreds of applications each day, and they are all over the place. Some people are overqualified, some people are underqualified. So if you are really interested in this job and if you really wanted this job fits all the criteria you wanted, and you do have some experience, even placement experience, feel free to give them a call. There's always program manager's number, there's always office number, there's always program manager emails. You can write a nice little email or leave a phone message to say you are interested and this is your experience and you are a graduate, but you would really appreciate to have an opportunity for an interview. Just put yourself out there and then follow up. That might earn you an opportunity for an interview, and that might actually help you secure the job eventually. You never know. Take initiative. That's what I would recommend. And the number 5 is emphasize your life experience, your lived experience. When I was living in China, my understanding of life and professional growth and career growth has always been a straight line. You finish high school, you go to university, you do master or you do PhD, and after that you graduate, you immediately find a job. There's no gap year, there is no career break. You find a job and you work in that field. You're a teacher, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you are a psychologist, you work in that exact same position for 10, 20, 30 years, then you retire. That was my understanding of career growth. But in Australia, it's very different. You, especially in social work, your lived experience is highly, highly, highly valued. So what does that mean is your experience, if you have been a hairdresser for 5 years, if you work as a park ranger for 3 years, if you volunteered in a children's hospital for 3 years, these are not wasted time of your life, even though they might not be directly linked with the job you are applying for. It is still very valuable life experience that is part of you, which makes you who you are, if that makes sense. So emphasize your life experience. Do not think that English as your second language is a disadvantage. If you speak English with an accent like me, fine, that's good. You know what? That is because English is your second language, which means you speak a different language fluently apart from English. That already demonstrates how awesome you are. If you're able to speak 2 different languages, you are bilingual, you are multilingual, which means you also come from a different culture. You weren't born and grow up in Australia, which means you understand your clients more. If your clients coming from refugee background, coming from immigration background, you are an immigrant yourself. If your clients are international students and you have experience of being an international student, then you understand them much better. So do not sell yourself short. Please make sure to emphasize your lived experience, your background, do not feel like you are at a disadvantage comparing with other local students. So, yeah, that's all I got to say. And that's just the 5 points I wrote down to share with you guys. If you are an international student studying social work or any other field of study that you are pursuing in Australia, if you're looking to find your first job as an international student, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to comment down below. Or if there are any other topics you would like me to cover, please let me know and make sure to follow and like my video. Thank you. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. Bye.